Guys, you will not believe what I just saw.
Kinda seems like the thing that stays with a man forever.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. I'm Taylor, and today we are going to be talking about Cocaine Bear and why I think you should be watching it. But before we do that, please go ahead and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and while you're at it, go ahead and hit the notification bell so you never miss a video here on Critical Commentary. It was a pretty rainy day, and I felt like, what was the best way to spend my time? So I thought, why don't I go see a movie? And I was stuck between Quantum Mania and this. So obviously Cocaine Bear won out. And I will say that while this was definitely a wild ride, I feel like the story was well developed and localized enough where the story kept me engaged, the horror actually scared me, and I also tended to laugh more than I expected. It's really weird that Elizabeth Banks is the director of this film because her filmography is the antithesis of Cocaine Bear. I always remember Elizabeth Banks as being the director of the new Charlie's Angels reboot and obviously the Pitch Perfect franchise. So when I saw that she was going to be directing this new indie horror, I was a little bit confused, but also very intrigued to see what was going to happen. It's opening weekend at the time of recording. I saw a matinee of this movie, and I kid you not, we were being ushered out because there was another line of people waiting to see the next showing. So if you're on the fence about this film, I feel like you should be watching it. For those of you who haven't seen a lot of my Why You Should Be Watching It style videos, I'll give you a brief understanding of how they go down. In these types of reviews, I try to keep spoilers to a minimum, mostly out of context as well, just because I want to entice you to go see it, and I want you to also have like a fresh set of eyes when you're going in, but at the same time, know what you're investing your money into. I don't know what the RT score of this movie is. I'm really curious to know in the comments what you guys think the RT score will be. So that'll be interesting to put a bet to what you guys think it would be. If you haven't seen a trailer of this movie, I'll give you a brief synopsis of the plot. Cocaine Bear is about a black bear in the middle of this park in, I believe it's Tennessee. It says Georgia Forest online, but I'm fairly sure in the film they say Tennessee, so we're going to stick with that. Gets into a significant amount of cocaine that has been exodused from a plane by a group of drug smugglers. As you can see, bear plus illegal substances, it's not gonna work out very well. It's gonna end in a catastrophe.
Fucking did cocaine.
This bear decides to go on a rampage, which affects a bunch of different smaller groups, but fills out a full ensemble in a way that I would say is somewhat poetic. By that, I mean this star-studded cast. We've got Carrie Russell, who I've always been in love with ever since I saw her in Waitress, O'Shea Jackson Jr., Ray Liotta, Isaiah Whitlock Jr., who I am also in love with. I've loved him since The Wire. He plays a detective in The Wire, and I swear all of his reactions was just prime time. I'm really glad that he was able to have a significant while small role in this film. There was a big standout in this film, Margot Martindale, who she's pretty hilarious in this role, but there's also something about it that I think is really self-aware, and I really enjoyed watching her be both funny and kind of this like park ranger, kind of that person that takes their job way too seriously. You want to laugh at them and make fun of them. One other actor that I want to acknowledge is Christian Convery. He plays the middle school aged Henry. And I will say, before, I was saying that this is a comedy, so everyone had to really give it their all. And I was not expecting a child actor to give as much as he gave. He was probably my favorite part of that plot line, or I guess you could call it plot A, because that is kind of the center of the story. He had me laughing so hard. He was so good. His timing was impeccable. His delivery was on point. The thing with this film is because there's so many different characters, it is really hard to give everyone the space to truly develop their characters in the short amount of time that they're on screen. I think that while some characters kind of were in the background and didn't make as big of an impression, then there was other people who just really took their time and they chewed the scenery in a way that just made them more memorable. And I think that the balance of that still worked out in the film's favor, but I do think that, if I had to nitpick something, I would say that some characters not standing out would have been something that came to mind. I know I said before I thought it was weird that Elizabeth Banks would be directing a horror film, and I really do stand by that, just because a lot of her other stuff has been so much more dainty and upbeat, and so it was interesting to see something that was so gory. I will say that this film, there were moments where I actually had to look away because it was very graphic, but it was also done tastefully. So I think that, scenes that you really would be expecting to be getting this full, exposure, it's not really done that way. I think that they handled a lot of the death scenes in a way that still gave that person dignity while still also making it part of the joke. Because at the end of the day, while this is a horror film, it's also kind of a comedy. I think that's what made this ensemble cast work so well, was because everyone was able to really give it their all and have a great time on set. I was telling one of my friends before I went to go see this movie that I feel like they went so hard when no one was expecting them to, kind of like how the team that made The Lion King, no one was really expecting that movie to be great, and they decided to just put so much love and effort into creating that movie that now we are sitting here debating on whether or not the reboot is good enough for the original animation. That was the level of, I think, surprise that I got when I realized how many people were going to see this movie. Now, I know that there is a bit of a controversy in the fact that some people are not really wanting to see this movie due to the animal rights aspect of this film. And I will say I can understand your worries, because that was something that I myself was a little bit unsure of. The original story involves the death of that bear. And I will say, somewhat of a spoiler, that if you are an animal lover, you will be fine. The movie ends in a way that won't make you upset. So don't feel like, if that is your reason to not go see this movie, that should hold you back. Overall, I really recommend this movie to you. I don't necessarily scale my movies, but if I had to, on a scale of 1 to 10, this is definitely 8.5 at least. I thought that this was an amazing horror movie. I have been missing that adrenaline rush. I have been missing kind of like a real horror movie, and I think because this movie leans into the fact that, because this happened in the 80s, this movie takes place in the 80s, and it leans into the 80s horror tropes of that time. So I felt like I was kind of going back to a different type of horror that was really something I was craving. I think we're kind of in this really weird age where horror has become a vehicle genre. You're seeing a lot of drama and horror with like Mike Flanagan's stuff, or you're seeing comedy and horror with like Tusk. and Barbarian. While I enjoy those types of films, I feel like sometimes I just want to be scared. Sometimes I just want to, jump and get that adrenaline rush. And this movie did that, but it also gave me a story that I felt really just made me, I don't know, it's like hard to explain without using spoilers, and I'm trying really hard to not spoil anything, so I'm being very particular with my words. But I just felt like the story had so much more to tell than just this superficial plot line of a bear going on a rampage. This movie is about our relationship to nature, our relationship to each other. And I think it's coming out at a time that is very significant considering the fact that climate change is very much showing itself to us. I think that a very ridiculous and kind of outlandish storyline like this is the perfect way to tell that kind of tale. It is scary, it is frightening. That is good horror. And the fact that it came from Elizabeth Banks is just so amazing. I really enjoyed myself. I'm actually going to be watching it again in like not too long. So I'm going to wrap this video up. I'm curious to know what you guys think. Did you like Cocaine Bear if you saw it? Are you on the fence and not totally sure if this movie is still for you? If you have seen it and are going to be putting spoiler-ish comments in the section down below, please make sure to mark it as such just so we don't ruin it for everyone else. Also, make sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram at CriticalCom with 2M's TV. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Bye, everybody.